Okay, today we're going to talk about congruent figures. And when we talk about the word congruent, we are always talking about whether it's a shape or a polygon or a line segment. That always means that they're the same size, the same shape. So therefore, all their information is also going to be the same. It's denoted by an equal sign with a little squiggly line on it. So we're going to say that's what it means to be congruent. So let's just say if you have two line segments that are, here's this point's A, this point's B, here's another line segment that's C, D. And we would say, well, this line segment, AB, is congruent to line segment CD. And so same thing with shapes. If I have, a rectangle, and don't try measurements on here because I'm not measuring them. I'm just going to tell you that they're congruent. AB, CD, and it's to another rectangle, and we say it's congruent to this rectangle. Then we would say the rectangle ABCD is congruent to EFGH. Now the thing to remember here is that the order matters in the way that you write them, because if I was to say, well, everything in here is the same shape, same size, it is, but it's certain ones. So you notice if I say, well, this AB is the same line segment, and it would be congruent to what line segment on EFGH? Well, it's going to be this one, EF. And so notice they're in the same position. They're the first two letters. So those are the two parts that have to be congruent. So also if I said, well, what would BC be congruent to? Well, I can look at the shape, but I also could look at the order of the letters and say, well, BC then has to be congruent to FG. And so on. So I could say, then DA, line segment DA, would be congruent to which one? HE. So the order there matters. You can also do that with angles. So if I wanted to say the angle of something, let's don't draw a rectangle on that. Let's draw a some kind of different triangle, and we'll see if we can get these to look somewhat alike. So in this instance, we would say, okay, well, let's say this triangle PWQ is congruent to the triangle, and you've got to use the same ones, TMD. And so let's say if I wanted to say, well, this angle PQW would be congruent to, you would have to say it the same way. The same order, PQW, then would be TDM, and make sure you get those same angles, that they would be congruent to each other. And we could say then angle W is congruent to angle M. Okay, and we can just complete all of these. Angle M would be congruent to, oops, I already did that one. Sorry. angle P then is congruent to angle T. Or we could do line segments or whatever. So, you know, or if I tell you that something is congruent to each other, so if I've made this statement here and I tell you that, well, I'm going to say angle W is equal to 50 degrees. Well, then you could automatically come and tell me that the congruent angle to WM would also be equal to 50 degrees. So we can write them that way also. So if they're the same shape, same size, everything about them is going to be equal. You just have to make sure you're at its corresponding part. And that is about it on congruent figures. So good luck with that.